Hi everyone, welcome to this short video. I'm going to talk a little bit about David Suzuki. Some of you may be familiar with who he is. He's quite a well-known Canadian environmentalist. In this essay called It Always Costs, his argument is stated right in the title. So his thesis statement could be said to be in the title itself. It always costs. Technology always has a cost. His thesis statement also is explicit in that it is stated in the last sentence of the second paragraph. There he says, however beneficent, technology always has a cost. So I would say that the thesis statement in this essay is quite explicit. It's not implied. We don't have to kind of read the text and close it and then say in our own words what it is. He's very outward about his thesis statement and his argument. Another point to make about this text is that David Suzuki is responding to a general idea in society. In our textbook called They Say, I Say by Gerald Graff and Kathy Birkenstein, those authors say that essays generally do respond to a larger argument. So you usually would say, this is what others say about this topic, and this is what I say in contrast to what others say. Maybe something that you say about the topic is in agreement with others, and something that you say about the topic is perhaps a little bit different or in disagreement with others. Suzuki is no different in this essay. I think what he's doing, and this may be a little more implied, but I think he's really responding to a general idea in our contemporary society, a general assumption, I would say, that technology is always a good thing. New technology is always better than the old technology. For example, the latest iPhone is better than the previous. It's always better to get a newer, more efficient, quality computer. It's better to get that new dishwasher to renovate your kitchen. Newer is always better. Newer technology, newer inventions are always a good thing. And that is a general assumption, I think. It's kind of taken for granted in our society, and it's something that we all are familiar with, right? And we could all probably agree with that idea on a basic level. But Suzuki's writing this essay to say, maybe we should step back from that assumption. Maybe we should take a hard look at that assumption. And maybe we shouldn't assume that the newest and the latest technology is always such a good thing. Maybe we shouldn't jump into accepting that new technology as quickly as we often do. And so, as I say, he's responding to a general assumption or a general belief in society and suggesting something a little bit different. Another thing to note about this piece is that David Suzuki's definition or understanding of technology, I think, is quite broad. Suzuki doesn't define technology explicitly in this text, but we can tell from the kinds of examples he uses that he's not thinking of technology in a very narrow way. For example, when I think of technology, what often comes to mind for me are new computers, new phones, things like that, new software, new ways of using this computer technology, basically. But he's looking at different kinds of technologies, not just computer technology. He's looking at pharmaceuticals, the newest and latest pharmaceuticals. He's looking at oil drilling in the Arctic, and he's looking at new and different ways in all sorts of realms, different kinds of technologies that may go beyond a kind of narrow sense of technology. So I think that's an important thing to notice about this text. I also want to point out the difference between an argument and examples. So in an essay, you have an overall argument, which, as I've mentioned in Suzuki's essay here, his argument is that technology always has a cost. There's always a negative or a downside to technology, is his opinion. Now, some essays have points, subpoints, and they would then have examples that back up those subpoints that back up the main argument. I don't think Suzuki has subpoints so much. He just goes from his overall argument to his examples. And he has various examples in different kinds of realms of technologies, as I mentioned. But if you're talking about DDT, for example, which is one of his examples that he uses as a technology that was embraced and then later had side effects that were not anticipated, that's not a point that he makes. DDT is not a point that he's making. It's an example he's using to prove his overall point or his overall thesis. So it's really important that we look at the argument he's making on the one hand and be able to distinguish that from the examples that he uses to support that argument. So we don't want to confuse those two things. That's all for now. I hope you enjoyed this essay, and another thing to do after you read it is perhaps find out a little bit more about David Suzuki, and you might want to think about this piece in relation to the other work that he's done elsewhere. Thanks for listening.